This question is for Tobias. What has the president done for LGBT equality? Why hasn't he done more? And does his position on marriage equality make everything else unimportant?
I'm shocked that I got this question. I've got to tell you, part of my great sadness in the last 2.5 years is that the LGBT community and leaders in the LGBT community have not, I think, done as good of a job as we need to in both, on the one hand, continuing to push very hard on the issues that still remain to be resolved for gay, bisexual, lesbian, and transgender people in terms of our inequality both at the state and the federal level. But at the same time, really giving people an understanding of the fundamental transformation that this president has been responsible for in the position and the relationship with government of LGBT Americans. The everyday business of this administration, not just this White House, but the agencies where a lot of the work gets done, and people up and down the line, senior people, mid-level people, entry-level people, people have been focused on a day-to-day basis on the question, what are the ways in which gay and transgender people have been invisible to their government or have been discriminated against by their government, and how do we remediate those problems? And the list of ways in which the everyday lives of LGBT people are being impacted, from putting in place protections for residents of HUD-subsidized housing, so that discrimination against gay and transgendered people is now going to be a violation of the terms of HUD-subsidized housing. I'm going to forget his proper title. I think it's Deputy Assistant Secretary Trasvina from HUD wrote an extraordinary essay on Huffington Post the other week talking about transgender homelessness in the United States and talking about the extraordinary rates at which transgender people are evicted or denied housing or are experiencing homelessness in the United States, and has both made it a priority of HUD to deal with that problem and also begun to elevate its visibility in a way which is totally unprecedented. Health and Human Services just released a series of new guidelines for collecting data on LGBT-specific health issues. It is the phenomenally important sort of boring-sounding policy, but a phenomenally important policy that is actually going to both make health delivery to LGBT people more of a reality and to make LGBT people visible in the process of setting health policy. I could literally spend the entire rest of our time talking about those kinds of day-to-day changes in the relationship of LGBT people with our government. And it is difficult to overstate how much this is what it looks like to have a government that actually cares about you and to have a government that is actually working to figure out what your needs are and to address those needs. And we've never had that before, and it could not be more important. Look, on the issue of marriage equality, this is the one issue, the rare issue, where I have had in the past and at this point continue to have a very respectful disagreement with my president. But and look, it's not an unimportant issue, and I would never take away from anybody's sense that they have to prioritize that issue and keep pushing on it. But I think part of activism and part of working towards social change is both, making choices about what issues you push on, but also learning to recognize victories. And learning to recognize that there's nothing inconsistent with continuing to have needs that are not being properly addressed and that you need to push on, but nonetheless recognizing when you have a victory and taking that into your soul. And look, the repeal of the Don't Ask, Don't Tell policy, if people want, I'd be happy to talk more about that. The position that the President and the Attorney General have taken on the Defense of Marriage Act, this horrible discriminatory statute from 1996, these are about defining the administration, the federal government's view of the equal citizenship of gay and lesbian people and transgender people under federal law. And I will tell you frankly, I have spent much of my adult life both working on and studying these issues and also being a gay man and advocating on these issues. I wasn't sure that I would ever live to see the day when my government would speak in the terms that my government is now speaking about my dignity and my equality. And there's more work to do, and I personally hope that there will come a time when there isn't that little caveat in some people's mind about, well, there's this marriage equality issue, and doesn't that overshadow everything else? But if you let that one issue overshadow everything else, then you're missing an opportunity to both get some real change done and also to recognize the ways in which you are becoming an enfranchised citizen for the first time. And it doesn't involve, you don't have to let that issue go to recognize that we've made progress that is simply breathtaking in the last 2.5 years. So my answer to the question is no. It doesn't overshadow everything else, and you know, it never should.
Thank you. Take one more from this side of the room.